I only have my questions. Um, one of the questions is, how does diversity enhance a community? And another is, what are the challenges of diversity in community? Um, one of Kathy's is, what does the beauty of diversity as a spiritual truth mean to you? And how has diversity affected you or people you know? So we are each going to give a little share to get this going, and then we are going to call on other people to share what their thoughts about diversity are. Well, I'm a gardener, and so I see that diversity in nature enhances the survival of the species. Um, and we at the Home of Truth also try to cultivate diversity. Our mission statement says that we honor diversity of people, ideas, and spiritual teachings. And I think that diversity in all those areas enhances our community. But for me, especially in the people department, I feel personally um, more comfortable in a group that has a wide range of demographics. People of different ages, races, abilities, or gender expression. So it makes me feel more part of the human race, like I'm really part of something, this big soup that we're all in. Um, and one of those things is, especially being on the older end of the spectrum, I enjoy having people of different ages around, particularly younger people, children, because they add this fresh energy that uplifts the whole group. And I was just going to toss this in. There's a lot of protesting going on these days, particularly at the university level, and I feel so grateful that young people are there to carry on. Um, it's like it's their job. So that being said, I'm going to go on to the second question, which is the challenge, of course, is that when people create together in community, they often disagree. And it's very easy to get along with people who are similar, have similar ideas. Um, However, that doesn't stretch us much. It doesn't give us a lot of opportunity to grow and change. So, an example that I have is that Betty and I are working on promotional materials together, and we have some very different ideas. Betty's very flexible and accommodating, but that is more of a growing edge for me. So I am working on being more flexible and open. So, and so that's it for me. And I'm going to hand this over to Cathy now, and then we'd like to hear from you.
I just love that idea about the growing edge and about being able to appreciate gifts that other people have and saying, maybe I could stretch and grow into that. I love that idea, Ellen. People wise, I want to say that one of the things that I love about the diversity of people is the different gifts they bring. So, for example, our tech team, Randall, Betty, Jeff, and sometimes, well, Shazam too, as a sound engineer here over here. These are not gifts I have. So, because of you guys, we are able to have our Zoom people here. We're able to project our sound, all kinds of things that I wouldn't be able to make happen. So diversity of gifts. And then we have all these various different people that come and speak to us who have different perspectives, different They've come through different traditions. They have different stories and ideas. So I find that very fulfilling. And that keeps sparking my imagination. We also have different musicians. And so there too, I get, Vicky, you talked about the sound bath. I get bathed in um, different kinds of music, different songs, different ways they're sung, different feeling each time. And I love that. That helps me just stay in tune, and it just helps me feel good. And then I want to say one other thing, which is um, that we are the home of truth. We're not the home of new thought. We're not the home of Christian Science or religious science or unity or whatever. The home of truth. And that means that we are open to truth in various different traditions. And as Ellen said, that's part of our mission statement. So for example, I love the teachings of Thich Nhat Hanh. So I'm just so grateful I get to bring those in and share. And other people who speak here bring in various different traditions. Reverend Nancy is an interfaith minister. She brings in different ideas from various spiritual teachers. And I love that openness, and that it just to me shows that we are all one, that there are various forms that truth comes to us in, and that we can celebrate that. So that's my share. So we're going to open it up to those here in the sanctuary for what you would like to say. All right, Betty. Great.
So similar to Jennifer, I too have a very diversified family. We've got Filipinos, we've got Blacks, we've got Heinz 57, as my mom would call us. And it is kind of wondersome to me as to how there have been individuals in my family who have not been accepting of the others. I have give a specific example that really at the time really upset me. We had a family reunion, Thanksgiving, up at my mom's, and my oldest sister was there with her children and grandchildren, and it's her grandchildren who have a Black father. And her husband at the time would not allow her to stay and take family pictures with us. And so we had to substitute, one of the other siblings to have that generation. And the other thing that he would not allow her to do was to have them in their home. Needless to say, that infuriated me. I was never raised that way. We were very inclusive of everybody in my family. It's just the way we were brought up. So I didn't know anything to the contrary until, when I was exposed as a teenager on the way home from a Lamar one summer camp. And the Watts riots were going on. And so we were all fearful for our Black friends who lived in that area, how they were going to get home safely. And so we had to, make other arrangements. And a couple of them stayed with us, a couple of them stayed with, other families who took them in very willingly and with open arms and love. So, yeah, so that's my big spiel on diversity. There's a lot more, but there's not enough time in the day to cover them all.
Thank you, Betty. Is there anybody else in the sanctuary that has a share? Randall. you go.
Okay.
Um, First want to say it feels kind of odd to be speaking in mostly empty room here. That's the reality it is right now. Why don't you guys go sit up there? At least somebody's out there to look at. Thank you, Cathy. So I can speak to you. So I was be speaking on what diversity as a spiritual practice means for me. So, what Ellen said about life, needing diversity to exist, that's from what I've heard and observed, that seems true. And yet it seems that humans often want to kind of try to, out of convenience, do away with a lot of that diversity. And it's an interesting aspect of, I think, of being human, probably something to do with our animal nature, being tribal. There's a book I've been reading. It's kind of a fantasy book, and there's a lot of these different religions, and one of the religions is called like a equalitarians. And in theory, it's like everybody's equal, and like that is just the best thing, and but in practice, what it turns into being is that they only value kind of the norm. Anybody outside of that range, like somebody too tall or too short or too smart or too stupid or too pretty or too ugly, you know, they're kind of discriminated against and looked down on. So it's like only the people who fall in that range. And again, that's kind of typical of humans to sort of want to interact with and be with people who kind of look like themselves, or maybe they occupy the same socioeconomic niche and education and views and outlooks, and find kind of more resonance with those types of people. And I had this interesting experience yesterday during the class on compassionate communication, which I was really surprised by because I have done a lot of nonviolent communication, and I thought myself to be, also in addition to a lot of spiritual practices, to be a very good listener. And the exercise was when somebody was speaking to tell a story and to as a experiment to just like she said listen against them, and in other words not before them, sort of hold this like, yeah, I don't really care about what you're saying, and then do it again. The same person tells the same story and then give them your kind of loving heartfelt attention, and the difference was so dramatic. It was just like visceral, for myself and the person that was speaking. So it made me think that, how I perceive and hold myself and how I'm in my heart can either diminish myself or others, or it can enhance myself and others. And, I have to admit that, often when I encounter people with different views or different attitudes or different perceptions or different opinions in the moment about how something should be done, I kind of go, "Arr," and and maybe I'm not. It's a very tiny little thing. It's like, but it's still like, I'm not quite. I'm not with you there, and I haven't really appreciated how that has affected me, because it's basically, I think it's had the effect of like keeping me more separate and isolated, which I really don't like. But so the question for me is to like, how can I like, hopefully, remember like to just like be with someone, and when if they're having a hard time, or they're going through some really awful thing in their life, loss, illness, rather than try to like, I got to help them, I got to fix them, and, I hope they can appreciate how I'm trying to do this for them, you know. And and really it's so much simpler than that. It's just like, I'm with you, and not think I have to actually do anything for them. It's like actually the opposite. It's like a not doing, apparently. It's just being open. So to me, like that diversity is like knowing that, like, whatever you want to call God, which for me I just call awareness, because it's the same. It's like this awareness holds everything and it's not affected by it. It's just a constant, except when I fall asleep. But other than, and there's some, you know, gurus say that even in the deep sleep, there's still awareness, but I haven't experienced that yet. But so I think that is like the key to just like being open, is just to know that this heart, this awareness, this mind, this God stuff that I am can hold all of that without being, tossed and turned. And, that's my human part that wants to try to do something about it. And it has all these preferences and ideas about how it should be. And honestly, it hasn't really done a lot for me. I mean, well, a little bit, but but not, it's not having the overall effect of my life that I would really like to, feel like I'm enhancing myself and others rather than, with that little, I'm, diminishing myself. And it's something I kind of get used to. You don't even notice it. I have not noticed it to the degree that it was brought to my awareness with that little exercise we did with compassionate listening. And that's, I think, enough for me. So thank you.
Thank you, Randall.
All right, now I'm ready.
You're ready.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go.
Um, I'll see if I touch on the ones that keep coming to mind for me about the diversity. It starts out kind of within a family. It's like the mother, father, kids, and who's the dominant and who's the submissives, and who's got the roles. And so you start learning roles and where you're supposed to fit and what you're supposed to do. And this, the whole issue of male, female, there's, Cathy brought up about, she doesn't know that much about the technical stuff and the sound stuff. And it's like, well, then that's not the person you want to say, that's going to be your job for the next 10 years. And that's kind of how we were doing it in life. It's like, okay, you're the boy and these are the jobs you get to do. And you're a girl and these are the jobs you get to do. And it doesn't always fit. And so I think that's one thing that's been happening in our society, is that we're trying to like follow your bliss because you will function at that job better and you will produce better. And so that's just kind of like started out with male female stuff that, we've started opening up what's available. And I got into it a little deeper. As people are talking, things start tripping out. And the one thing that started coming to me was within our society, in terms of, okay, we had, for the most part, two parties, Democrat, Republican, and it's like, oh, I'm choosing this one, and those other ones, they just don't have it together. And during this last 5 years with COVID and the different presidential things, races, it started seeming like that stuff got blurred. It's like it was hard to fit in one of those camps or the other. It seemed like they started trading values. And so then it's like, well, go back to the Constitution. What was the original thing? It's like, okay, everybody, and Randall mentioned equality, and it's like, well, that was, they were trying to do, give equality, to everybody. And it was like, well, no, it was to
everybody who had property and and was a man and white. And so that was the equality place. But the way it was written was, it was able to open it up, and they were like, we're not going to sign this unless we have these amendments, which actually gave us all our rights. But it's like taking this time to be able to allow for the diversity of all the other people that are on this, well, within this country, to try to take that first constitution and those rights and say, no, it's for everybody. It's for everybody. And then I'm, well, okay, this is a scary part. I guess it's not part of the spirituality thing, but it is, because we start giving up rights. We start giving up our power. It's like, if we have these rights, I want to say freedom of speech and freedom to just go out there. It's like, all of a sudden, it's like different people in Congress are going, well, it's okay to do that. And the judges and the police, it's like, okay, it's okay to take your rights away. And it's like, some people willingly give them up, because I don't think they even know that, no, that is your right to keep it. And so as a spirituality, it's, in this group, we start talking about the Christ within. And before, it was all out here. So the power was all out there. And it's like, we're starting to allow that the power is here, and to be able to start taking back our power in so many different ways within how we want to function. What are the jobs we want to do? What do we want to contribute? And what are our rights and responsibilities, whether it comes from a spiritual aspect or living in community. And so I'll just talk one more thing. I too, Betty had talked about coming from a family that was filled with diversity, and I did too. And I remember I lived in Milwaukee, which was probably the largest population of Black people in all of the Midwest. And my brother was darker than everybody else in the family. I mean, there was 3 different fathers within the family. So I remember being at a school, and I didn't find out till years later that he was being treated so much more differently than I, darker versus white, and what he was going through. But when we were in Milwaukee and we were just little kids, I remember there was a fence down the playground, boys on one side, girls on the other. And I didn't relate to girls, but I related to my brother. So every single recess, there's these 2 little kids at the fence. We were just at the fence because that's we hung out together. And so I pictured that, about how we keep separating out. Okay, there's the Jesus group. Oh, and there's the Buddha group. And then it's like, take down the fences, man. So anyways, thank you.
All right. Thanks, Shazam.
We have another
thinking
one
that
here.
we're running out of time, and I'm thinking that there's some people on Zoom who might want to talk. And is that Vicky? So yeah, we're trying to get you're switched on, but we're not there yet. Okay, Randall says you should be able to talk now.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. So thank you for this community topic, and thank you for including the Zoom people, even though it might make you late for lunch. I think everybody is important, and that's what diversity is about to me, is that everybody plays a role, even if they're on Zoom in a little black box. There's a image I saw there's an image I saw on Facebook, and it was 2 images actually. One image was of 3 eggs with the yolks, and all 3 eggs looked exactly alike. And the next image was 3 eggs, and they all had different color skin. And it was like, oh, that's beautiful. It's like it's beautiful that on the outside we're one thing, on the inside we're all the same. And with what I've been going through lately, none of the intellectual stuff matters. What matters is the love, the ways in which we are the same, not different. And I also want to just say that the reason that diversity is part of our mission statement or vision statement, whichever it is because David Borglum really, really, really pushed for it. And he didn't want to have the mission statement be finished unless that was a part of it. And now I'm glad that that is part of who we are. I'm glad he pushed for it. And that's all I can think about with that. Thank you.
Thanks, Vicky. Is there anybody else on Zoom? Yeah, I thought Jennifer wanted to say something. There you are. But we can't hear you yet. Okay, you need to unmute. There you
Goody. Oh, goody. I actually could do it myself. Okay. Okay. Well, I just wanted to thank everyone and Shazam, I'm totally thinking of you and your brother at the fence, that you didn't let the fence stop you. You were still able to hang out with him and be with him and support him, which is I with the family, Shazam and Betty and everybody. I guess I have a similar thing since I was 18, that I came from a bit predominantly white um, background and community um, out here in California for most of my young life, and that all of a sudden all of that changed at 18. And what I've done the rest of my life, which I'll be 79 soon. So the rest of my life, and I'm not sure I did it, except that um, my first husband was Black. And so just from the beginning, the whole thing seems to be about inclusivity. And learning more about other people's and their trials. So, and developing, I mean, Kuan Yin is one of my favorite spirits. And that's because she has so much compassion. And as I learn about more different groups that keep coming into my family, there's like 5 or 6 of them now. Native American, Black, Filipino, I don't know, it just goes on. That I keep learning that they have so much, there's just so much to know about what we've been in this country. And I think that as I learn that, it also helps me be more acceptant of the world, and the country that we're in. And it's still hard with as you were talking about the political stuff. That takes a lot of work for me on acceptance and just honoring that. I think that the first thing is it's about compassion, mainly love. And I know that that's something my grandkids say, is that I don't judge them. I don't judge people for stuff. So I think if that's something we carry through in this group, which I think we do, um, that's the best thing. So anyway, thank you all. And I just love diversity. It excites me. So thank you.
Thanks, Jennifer.
Yeah.
Meredith, you had your hand up. You want to come up here because you need the microphone.
So it's always interesting to me to be African American. I've been African American my entire life. And so it's interesting to hear the term I use is white folks have a conversation about this situation. In my experience, I was fortunate enough to grow up with African American parents who, and my father was a minister, so he was wonderful. He loved everybody. He loved too many people. that was our attitude oftentimes. So I grew up with an experience of everyone, all kinds of different people. And I had the fortunate opportunity to be a flight attendant. I've traveled all over the world. I've learned 4 or 5 languages. So I've had a wonderful, wonderful experience of different people in their country, out of their country, in their languages and all that. And when I'm here in the United States of America, it's always something always seems off. And when I look at it, it's like, well, it is off. That's why it seems off, because there's never this opening for diversity. We have conversations about diversity. There are many people who enjoy the diversity, and yet when you look around, you don't always see the diversity. In the news, you don't always feel the diversity. So, yeah, that's pretty much, we have these conversations, and then the experience doesn't express diversity. So what I would like to see first in this country, and then, of course, all over the world, is for us to be able and willing to allow ourselves to express diversity, not just in our minds, but in our ways of being, in our ways of how we share, in our ways of not allowing the money situation to control our lives. It's just so many different ways. So that's why I had to come and speak about it, because I'm speaking from one who is African American, and I've had like I said earlier, I've had the opportunity to travel all over the world. And yet when I come back here to the United States, I go into, they call them blocks. They call them blocks for a reason. That's my conversation anyway, because there are certain separations in our society. Now, I'm sure there's separations in many societies, but that's not where I live. I live in this society, and we have so many separations amongst us that prevent people from expressing fully, from living fully, from just being, just like we have these signs, being love, being peace, being joy, being unity, being compassion, being trust. Those are important things. In fact, that's probably just all that we need in the entire human race. Yeah, so I just Spirit said, go down and say what you have to say, girl. I said, I got to go down and say what I have to say. And it's been an interesting experience living here in the United States of America. And then when people speak about it, it's spoken like, yes, it's a wonderful country and all of that stuff. And I'm like, well, it depends upon your viewpoint. And I'm here to say that, yes, there are times, many times, that it's a wonderful country. And then there are those times where the separation appears larger than the unity. So I'm here to say that unity is always asking to be expressed. And why do I say that? Because over here, it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good when I'm holding someone else back because they're a different color, they speak a different language, and we have that all over, definitely here in the United States and everywhere else. But I'm speaking from the United States. And it just doesn't feel good when people are not open. And it's real easy to tell when people are not open. So that's about all I have to say. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Meredith.
Thank you, everybody, for the collective wisdom. Wow, I feel like we could just keep going on. I'm just moved by so many things that you guys have said. It's very moving. Randall, I was almost in tears when you were talking. It was just really spoke to me, and what everybody shared was just so. I just love getting to hear all that. So, thank you. Thank you all, and thank you for being on Zoom and sharing. Jennifer and Vicky. It's just very, very moving to me. Oh, and it makes me think. It makes me know that we are the world.
All right, this is one of those songs where you got to kind of have your arms available to swing, because this is one of those where you like to have your arms over your head while you're singing this one. Done. Make sure this is a fine. Making sure our chorus is ready to do what it needs to do. Hello. All right, here we go. There comes a time when we heed a certain call, when the world must come together as one.